before now. Actually, I'm very lucky that I'm speaking after Dr. Mishra, because most of the things that I wanted to say, he has said it. No, it's true. Which is to say that anywhere you go, during Gandhi's remembrances, they tell you that there's an Indian saying that the world is one. I've heard it repeated so many times, and that is embodied by Gandhi, by Nelson Mandela, and by Martin Luther King. Dr. Mishra has come and said that he's Indian by origin and now Kenyan and a very big patriot from his statement. And that the bulk of the 92% that he got in the vote, that it wasn't Indians that voted for him, that it was Kenyans. That's what he said. Now, if we reflect on this story, I think it is going to help us here, because globalization is a genie that has come out of the bottle. There is no way that you can put it back. And it is this, Excellency Willie, he put it very succinctly, that Africa as a whole, post-colonial Africa tried to go the Western way, and now it didn't work. It's as simple as that. And we have a saying in Nigeria that Nigeria is looking east. Africa is now looking east. Everybody was here when FOCAC held. FOCAC is a forum of Chinese African Cooperation. 53 African heads of state and government went to China. And then the thing was being shown on television, and anytime I go to think tanks and to chambers of commerce, because I come from Nigeria, the first question they ask is, how can you, what are you doing when China is recolonizing Africa? And I think that the person that provided the most opposite response to that was President Yoweri Museveni, because he went to England and they asked him the question, and he said that Africa has always been there. If you don't want to come and invest, those who want to come and invest will come and invest. It's as simple as that. The World Bank has said that Africa is the investment destination of the 21st century, and he, from UNDP, he can buttress that. So if you have these mutually beneficial relationships to increase trade and all that. So I am a retired Major General, and I have a little bit of understanding of the global geostrategic game being played. So if you think in an insular way, you are going to lose out. It's simple. But if you think in a global way, in an era of globalization, you reap the fruits. So when you come to Millennium Development Goals, and I'm saying that the story that Dr. Mishra told us is something that I really hope that the Indian populace will really reflect on. If you allow people to integrate in your societies, it's going to be for your own benefit. I know the history of India. 800 years of Mughal rule, 250 years of British rule, and therefore India has never been a colonizing power. So because of that, you think in a self-satisfied way, but that kind of thinking is no longer adequate for a globalized world. Then SDGs in Nigeria, any government that comes, anywhere, it looks at a whole gamut of goals that it wants to achieve, whether it is millennium development or sustainable development. And my own understanding of sustainable development is that it is something that if you achieve it, then it becomes self-regenerating. That is my understanding. And you can only do that if you respect the environment, because if you pollute your environment, then you cannot sustain development because it leads to degradation. So any government that comes, it takes up the recognizing the interdependence of the matrices that you need for sustainable development. When the government comes, it says now that this is the major challenge that it is going to focus on, which if it successfully confronts, then you can now have production, you can have a rise in per capita income, you can have industrialization and all that. So the leader that we have now in Nigeria, who is President Buhari, he came and found out and acknowledged the fact that our greatest problems were three in nature, and he focused on them. You know, one is bringing back security to Nigeria. Everybody has heard about Boko Haram, you know, and he has succeeded quite a lot in integrating their combat capability and potential. Then the second one is fighting corruption. You know, if you have a corrupt environment, you cannot achieve anything. And the heads of state of the African Union came together and gave President Buhari the official title of the face of anti-corruption in Africa. On the 25th of May this year, we had Africa Day, because that is when the founding of the Organization of African Unity in 1963 is on 25th May. So we had African envoys here. We came together and we had it, and then your foreign minister came and announced to us then that India was opening 18 new missions in Africa to bring the total to 47. And the theme of this year's celebration was confronting corruption in Africa so that progress can be made. So you look at we in Nigeria, we think a little bit global. So when we talk about anything that we do in Nigeria, we start first of all from an African perspective. You know, it's very nice of Dr. Mishra to talk about Kenya becoming a superpower in Africa. Well, I don't know when Nigeria will be, when Kenya will do that. But in any case, every nation has the right to aspire to whatever it wants to make of itself. So Nigeria is always playing a lead role in Africa integration, in connectivity, you know, in having pushing some African countries to define an African personality, because unless you take pride in your own identity, you cannot achieve anything. So the result is the last ease of doing business rankings, which Nigeria, I'm talking about Nigeria now, which Nigeria, you know, made progress by 24 places, you know, and we are getting somewhere. So with India on on trade, on cultural, high-tech. India gives us training in high-tech, in defense cooperation, and so on and so forth. Then when you come to business, Indian companies are the second largest investors in the Nigerian economy, and Indians constitute the largest number of workers with work permits in Nigeria. Here in India, there is no single Nigerian that has a work permit. There's no single Nigerian, because I'm the ambassador and I have the statistics, there is no single Nigerian that have an import license. If my wife goes out to market to go and buy Nigerian food, he has to buy it from an Indian. So these are things that we are bringing to the knowledge of our policymakers, so that when they come to joint commissions, they can discuss it, because international relations, bilateral relationships are predicated on reciprocity. So all these things are things that the way forward is just to continue what we have started. I just came back from Nigeria with CII, where they went with heads of industries and all that to go and have a look. And I was talking to the anchor person just here, and he says that it was a success, and many things are being done together. So, in summary, we look at sustainable development goals as a byproduct of a healthy economy. So So if we have a healthy economy, whether it is a water supply, whether it's sanitation, whether it is health, whether it is education, all are things that cannot happen unless you have peace, prosperity, and social policies that are inclusive, that do not discriminate, so that a few people can have the best of life and the other people will wallow in poverty. So I thank you very much.